Last year, we did a story on how thousands of young people fall into the trap of scam centers and are tortured to work for them in Cambodia's criminal compounds. The country's scam centers have been an open secret for years, but that one story brought it under fresh scrutiny because one young man from South Korea was killed in a scam compound and another who saw it had escaped. The victim in question was 22-year-old Park Min-ho, who was beaten to death in August of 2025 after he tried to resist getting involved in cybercrime. Just how every story has a villain, every scam network has a leader. And so the man we are talking about today is not just a small-time scam ring leader. He is also not from Cambodia, the country where his nexus thrived. The person we are talking about is Chen Zhi and his massive conglomerate called the Prince Holding Group. Zhi is only in his 30s right now. He was raised in China's Fujian province. During his early years, he began a small internet gaming company, but reports say it was not very successful. Then, around the year 2011, he moved to Cambodia, and in 2014, he gave up his Chinese nationality to secure a Cambodian citizenship. In 2015, Zhi set up and rapidly expanded his company, the Prince Group, into many sectors. Real estate, banking, and airlines were the most prominent ones. Now, a lot of this business was a front for his real activities, setting up and expanding scam compounds across Cambodia, centers which lured people into the country on the pretext of job opportunities. But when these people, these victims arrived, they were held at these very compounds against their will and made to work in fraudulent operations. These centers also contain massive phone farms which are used to carry out a whole lot of criminal acts at a very, very large scale. Last year, after the South Korean students' case garnered global attention, authorities of US and UK declared the Prince Holding Group as a transnational criminal organization. Both countries accused Zhi of allegedly masterminding global scam centers, money laundering, and operating forced labor camps. The American and British authorities then went on to sanction the group in 2025, accusing it of operating scams that defrauded victims of over $10 billion in America alone. The total figures and victims from other parts of the world are estimated to be far higher. Now, the operations of this group were how every criminal has ever laundered money, using shell companies. The Prince Holding Group used over 100 such companies spread out across Singapore, Mauritius, Taiwan, and Cambodia as well to facilitate money laundering. And at the top of this empire sat Chen Zhi, a man who became so powerful that he acted as an advisor to several senior officials of Cambodia. But the question here is this: how is it that one man could expand so much in such a few number of years and not raise any red flags among the authorities? Because his rise in the early years exhibits many questionable moves. For instance, in the year 2018, the Chinese-turned-Cambodian national obtained a license to establish the Prince Bank. He also obtained a passport for Cyprus in the same year, and that passport came at a minimum $2.5 million investment. Then he also went on to acquire the citizenship of Vanuatu as well. In the following year, in 2019, Zhi applied for a bank account on the Isle of Man. During the process, he listed an unnamed uncle who Zhi claimed gave him $2 million to establish his first real estate company. But there is no paper trail or details about the so-called uncle, and the bank did not seem to be bothered by the missing critical details. Moving on to 2020, Zhi obtained a certificate to start Cambodia's fourth airline, And this was just over 2 years after he started the country's third airline called Cambodia Airways. Now, all of these instances in isolation do not raise flags, but together, there are so many unanswered questions about Chen Zhi's sudden and meteoric rise in Cambodia. But it appears that the country's highest of the authorities did not seem to care. Zhi was, on the contrary, bestowed by the highest title given by Cambodia's king in the year 2020. But that same year, miles away in China, authorities had quietly begun investigating the man who left the country and also its nationality less than 10 years ago. It was all very understated until the brutal murder in August last year. Because within months then, China began the process to extradite Chen Zhi and try him. The sanctions by the US and UK only strengthened their case further. For months after, at the end of 2025, no one heard of or knew where Zhi was. It was finally in January this year that Beijing brought the seasoned cybercriminal back to Chinese soil to hold a trial, given that China has already convicted and executed scammers before. But these scammers are far lower in the leadership than Zhi, and one can only imagine what his fate will be.